This presentation is meant to lead the audience through the principles of ATM implementation, planning, reporting and monitoring in Europe, i.e. the Master Plan Level 3, which previously was called the European Single Sky Implementation Mechanism, and the LSSIP, the Local Single Sky Implementation Mechanism. It's primarily meant for the newcomers to the LSSIP process, and especially those attending the 4th of October annual event. This presentation will be uploaded on the PRM website by 8th of October. The outline of the webinar is as follows. We have an introduction with a few slides. Then we speak about the requirements, so a number of slides explaining the why to have this process. We go extensively through the deliverables that we produce with numerous examples. There's the process, there's the tools, the IT tools, and we give a small summary at the very end. The picture you see here is the well-known ATM Master Plan pyramid, showing its 3 levels. With, as it is at third level, is the Master Plan Level 3, and then the LSSIP reporting with it. All this will be further explained in few details.
This section provides an overview of the context of the planning, reporting, and monitoring mechanism, including an introduction on its framework, as well as EUROCONTROL's role. This presentation provides a broad overview of the Single European Sky Implementation Planning and Reporting Mechanism at both pan-European level and local level. It will cover questions such as, what's the ATM Master Plan Level 3 implementation view? What's the implementation objective? What are the tools and processes for the ATM implementation planning and reporting? What are the criteria set to determine implementation progress? Who are the stakeholders and users involved? What's the EUROCONTROL PRM unit mission and support role? This year marks the 25th year for our planning and reporting process. 25 years ago, we had the Convergence and Implementation Plan, the CIP, to support the European ATC Harmonization and Integration Program. And then we had the ESIP and LSIP to support EUROCONTROL ATM 2000 Plus strategy. As of 2008 cycle, we introduced SIP and LSIP, including the Single European Sky dimension. Since 2011, the process is fully integrated in the European ATM Master Plan, representing its Level 3. Master Plan Level 3 and LSIP planning, reporting, and monitoring process ties together all levels of ATM planning and monitoring, ensuring consistency among local, European regional level, mainly the ECAC area, and the global level. On the one hand, they refer to both state performances and stakeholders' plans at local level, while on the other end, provide information to the ICAO EUR ASBU monitoring process at global level. The Single European Sky needs concrete implementation plans for Europe as a whole, and these have to be based on the European Master Plan. Once a European plan has been agreed, local and regional plans have to be drawn up. This will be used by air navigation service providers, regulatory authorities, military, airports, airspace users. Individual stakeholders then compile their own implementation progress reports. These are later consolidated in a European document so that the aviation community can identify the gap between what is needed at European level and what can actually be done at local and regional level to bridge the gap. EUROCONTROL's role is to support European aviation by coordinating the contributions to the annual ATM Master Plan Level 3 plan and ECAC level, which includes EUROCONTROL member states and Azerbaijan. by facilitating the production of implementation progress reports made by the national stakeholders, by producing consolidated reports at European level, such as the ATM Master Plan Level 3 Progress Report and the ICAO GAMP ASBU Monitoring Report for ICAO at UR region level, which includes additional 11 states, 7 Eastern European countries, 3 Northern African countries, and Israel. And finally, by assisting decision-making by various steering bodies on any remedial action needed to implement the plan.
This section will clarify why the ATM Master Plan and the LSSIP processes were introduced, how these mechanisms are created, and what are the links with the other reporting mechanisms in Europe. The Single European Sky and CESAR framework requires the stakeholders to agree at the European level on the implementation actions before the local deployment. The European regulations are one of the channels to ensure the harmonization. But in addition to the regulations, the European states recognize that the Master Plan Level 3 and the LSSIP mechanisms, all originally called the ESIP and LSSIP, are one that will allow to introduce the synchronized actions in order to achieve by all of the ATM stakeholders the expected benefits of CES and CESAR, and in particular the agreed performance targets. And in this graphic below, you can see that CESAR performance ambitions with ensuring high levels of security, reduction in the air navigation services costs, reduction of delays and increase in capacity following the increase in traffic, reduction of CO2 emissions, reduction of flight time with less fuel burn, and improvement in the safety area. The ATM Master Plan and LSSIP mechanism is a cyclic process which starts with the deployment planning at European level with the ATM Master Plan Level 3 plan, and then it is followed by the deployment reporting and monitoring at 2 levels. The local level, at which the involved states show the implementation of the objectives at national level through all national ATM stakeholders, and then at the European level, with the yearly Master Plan Level 3 Progress Report, which shows the implementation of the objectives at ICAC level. The ATM Master Plan and LSSIP processes are closely linked to the other monitoring mechanisms of other organizations that cooperate with EUROCONTROL. The first main link is with the CESAR joint undertaking through the ATM Master Plan, but also the results of the LSSIP monitoring are used by ICAO for the monitoring of Global Air Navigation Plan. The European Defence Agency is using the monitoring of the military infrastructure in Europe through the LSSIP process, and we are now in the process of establishing potential links with EASA for the monitoring of the European Plan for Aviation Safety, and also with the SDM, CESAR Deployment Manager, to share the data referring to the SDM's deployment program. In the near future, we are also planning to include other planning, monitoring, and reporting processes into the LSSIP process, and we think now about the U-Space implementation monitoring, but also the ICAO Global Aviation Security Plan. And here you have a graphic picture showing all the organizations that are involved at the different levels of the ATM Master Plan and LSSIP process.
So here we'll speak about the various deliverables that our unit produces together with the stakeholders, but first we will speak about the overall master plan. The master plan is an evolving roadmap for ATM modernization in Europe and is the result of strong collaboration between all ATM stakeholders. As a technological pillar of the CES initiative, the CESAR ATM research contributes to achieving the CES high-level goals and supports the CES regulatory framework. The master plan details not only the high-level view of what is needed to be done in order to deliver a high-performing ATM system, but it also explains why and by when. It sets the framework for the development activities performed by the CESAR joint undertaking, this SGU, in the perspective also of the deployment activities to be performed by all operational stakeholders, and under the coordination of the CESAR deployment manager for the regulated pilot common project, the PCP, in accordance with the deployment program, so to ensure overall consistency and alignment. It is under the governance of SGU, with a dedicated project for its maintenance, and it's led by EUROCONTROL. The last update was 2015. The next full update of all levels of the master plan is foreseen for February 2019, with a consultation up to June 2019. The content of the master plan is structured, as shown already before, in 3 levels, to allow stakeholders to access an integrated set of information at the appropriate level of detail. There is the first level, the level 1, meant for executive level stakeholders, and it constitutes the synthesis of the CESAR vision. There's a performance view, an operational view, deployment view, business view, and risk management. There is here one deliverable which is made approximately every 3 to 4 years. Then the level 2 and the level 3 of the master plan provide more detail on operational changes and related elements, and therefore the target audience for these levels is expert level stakeholders. The level 2, the planning and architecture view, is available through the European ATM portal, which provides detailed planning and architecture information supporting the set level 1 and the level 3. For this level 2, the deliverable is not tangible in the sense of being a print deliverable. It's in fact the entire information on the portal that constitutes this level 2. And then the level 3, the implementation view, that one comprises 2 deliverables, the plan and the progress report. The plan is a set of commonly agreed implementation objectives and actions, including those resulting from other CES plans such as the CESAR deployment program, which aim at achieving stakeholders' performance targets. Then the other deliverable, the progress report, provides a progress assessment for all implementation objectives at ECAC level. So to conclude, level 3 is a set of major mature solutions ready for implementation that also will need to be tracked upon through the LSSIP. Now we focus on the Master Plan Level 3 and the LSSIP. As we said, the Master Plan Level 3 implementation view consists of a plan and a progress report and is complemented by the states or national stakeholders' local single sky implementation, the LSSIP. The plan is a performance-oriented process with common implementation actions required to improve the network over the generally 5 to 7 years, and it applies to the entire ECAC region. It does it in the form of implementation objectives and stakeholder lines of action, the so-called SLOAs, which define what has to be done, why, how, when, where, and by whom. The progress report consolidates the local implementation plans and annual progress reports, provides an overview of implementation, identifies delays in implementation at European level. This overview helps to focus the analysis of the most critical implementation delays and to prepare for, if needed, appropriate remedial actions. Thus it closes the loop between implementation monitoring and implementation planning. And as you see, the link between both deliverables is the LSSIP process and documents.
So back to the cyclic process, let's focus on the Master Plan Level 3 plan, which represents the deployment planning. The plan is updated on a yearly basis, according to the outcome of the monitoring and reporting activities linked to the execution of the previous edition of the Master Plan and the progress report. Thanks to the double governance shared by CESAR Joint Undertaking and EUROCONTROL, it contributes to the extension of CESAR to the entire ECAC area. Links between the Master Plan Level 3 plan and the deployment program have also been updated in coordination with SESAR Deployment Manager in order to ensure coherence in the management of the deployment of SESAR prerequisites, meaning the pre-SESAR baseline objectives, providing the basis for the implementation of SESAR concept, as well as the components of the PCP. Currently, the Master Plan Level 3 plan contains 50 implementation objectives, which can be either active and be monitored in LSSIP, or not active, for instance, for initial status, and not be monitored in LSSIP. Here you can see two examples given by the INF 08.2 and FCM 07. Objectives are based on different requirements derived from different frameworks, such as implementation rules, ICAO GAMP, SESAR solution, and they have therefore different applicability areas, such as the European Union, ICAC area, etc. In particular, 19 objectives have elements related to PCP implementing rule, while 40 objectives contain relations to ICAO GAMP ASBO modules. Finally, 29 objectives are related to SESAR solutions. The diagram shows also the objective FCM09, the enhanced ATFM slot swapping, being addressed by an M only.
The plan is structured in 3 views to improve the readability for the decision makers. The first, the strategic view, presents the main operational changes according to the 4 SESAR key features as defined in the Master Plan Level 1, and gives an overview of what is in the pipeline for the deployment. It is prepared mainly for the use of the intermediate decision makers. As the notion of the SESAR key features will be reappearing many times during this presentation, it is worth mentioning what they are. So the realization of the SESAR concept follows strategic orientations described by the 4 SESAR key features. They evolve through an ongoing deployment and supporting R&D programs. And these features are the optimized ATM network services, which include, among others, advanced airspace management, advanced dynamic capacity balancing, optimized airspace user operations, and others. Then we have the advanced air traffic services, and these reflect the move towards the automation with activities addressing enhanced arrivals and departures, separation management, enhanced air and ground safety nets, etc. Then the high-performing airport operations. They address the enhancement of runway throughput, integrated surface management, airport safety nets, and the total airport management. And the last, the enabling aviation infrastructure, which covers the communications, navigation, and surveillance systems, SWIM, trajectory management, and other elements. Within each key feature, a number of major operational changes are described which provide the performance benefits to one or more of the 4 types of the operating environment. And these operating environments are the airport, en route, TMA, or the network. The operational changes are enabled through technical systems, procedures, human roles, and institutional changes, including the standardization and regulation. And this picture shows the relationship between the 4 key features and the essential operational changes and the list of key R&D activities that arise from the SESAR 2020. The pre-SESAR elements show the current situation at the moment of the development of the ATM Master Plan. The PCP and new elements show what was in the pipeline towards the deployment at the moment of the development of the plan, and the R&D activities show the elements necessary for the full deployment. But more details will be available to you directly through the ATM Master Plan or through the portal, which we will describe also later on in the presentation. In this view, you have an example of the strategic view from the plan, from the Master Plan Level 3 plan, for the key feature called Advanced Air Traffic Services. And here the operational change that is described is the PBN, Performance-Based Navigation. It shows in details what is expected of this specific change on the left-hand side and what are the roles and influences of all involved stakeholders on the right-hand side. In addition, it also provides the performance benefits for the implementation of this specific change.
In the previous slide, we spoke about the strategic view, which is the first view of the plan. Now the deployment view gives a more detailed description of each implementation objective, and it refers to the what, the when, the who, the where. It includes the link with the level 2 of the master plan, a link with the CESAR Deployment Manager deployment program, and, if applicable again, with the ICAO Aviation Systems Block Upgrades, the ASBUS. It also shows benefits expected and the progress of implementation at the European level. Here we see a number of examples of implementation objectives. You see elements on the left related to airspace organization. We have there ASMGCS. We have other airport improvement, safety nets, etc. You also see the objectives have a specific abbreviation, and they can be spread over many years to implement. Here is an example of a typical objective dealing with flow and capacity management. It's the FCM05 objective, in this case dealing with the interactive rolling knob. There are always 2 pages per objective in the deployment view, as you see here. The left part, it shows the what, a short description, the when, there's a date shown, the who, so all applicable stakeholders, the where, in this case, so the applicability area, and the why, i.e. the benefits brought by this objective. And it also shows in the middle the links to all other initiatives. And then the right page shows the how, the so-called SLOAs or stakeholder lines of action. Let's focus on a few details for this specific objective. The what, it's a description that should enable you to have a first idea of what is meant. In the case you would need more, you should look to the next view, the engineering view. Here's also a detail is important to know. As we said before, the Master Plan Level 3 is comprehensive, so it includes all elements to be deployed, not only the common project elements for which the deployment manager is responsible, which at this moment is the pilot common project, the PCP. Now this objective, this one, is one of those which is in the portfolio of the deployment manager, as it's shown under the heading of applicable regulations and standards. And then there is the where and the when. Here you see that for this objective a FOC, being full operational capability, date has been set to end of 2021. It applies, as you see, to most ECAC states, but for the states mentioned here has been made an exception for a number of reasons. And then you see also the progress on time. So through the monitoring we assume, if the planning is properly followed, that it will be implemented by end of 2021 as initially planned, and by end of 2017, the ending of the last monitoring, we were already at 8%. Let's now focus on the details for the same objective of the how, so the SLOAs. Remember that in the first page, the who were set to be the ANSPs, the airspace users, the airport operators, and the network manager. Now this page describes what each of these stakeholders are supposed to do. We will monitor the national stakeholders, so in this case the airport operators and the ANSPs, through the LSSIP, while the network manager and the airspace users are tracked through different means. You will see, for example, training of personnel can be a specific action. You see also 2 actions for the network manager that have already been finalized. Note also the dates. We can have a staggered approach. Here you see 2 actions for the airports and the airspace users. They were foreseen to be implemented 4 years before the overall date of the objective. Now, these are the 2 pages per objective. If anyone needs more information, then the engineering view is the next logical step.
The engineering view provides a complete description of each implementation objective with details of the stakeholders' line of action and reference to the necessary supporting material. This view is not printed and is available to implementers only on the European ATM Master Plan portal. In this example, we show the detailed description of the implementation objective ATC 17 related to the electronic dialogue as automated assistance to controller during coordination and transfer. In this slide, we show the 2 pages that compose this specific section, but for other objectives, the engineering view can be longer, depending on the level of details available. The engineering view provides the implementers with comprehensive information on the subject matter of the objective, its applicability area and time scale, references to ATM Master Plan, deployment program, ICAO GAMP ASBU, as well as any applicable legislation. It includes also SLOA's detailed descriptions, stakeholders affected, expected performance benefits, as well as reference to the relevant supporting material. Finally, any possible notes are reported in blue for better visibility. Here we have an extraction of the comprehensive description of the content of the ATC 17, detailing in this case all the messages that should be implemented in order to support the coordination process between adjacent ATS units and sectors. Another element of the engineering view of any implementation objectives is the list of the SLOAs, including a reference number, title, and the associated time frame. As already mentioned, the view includes also a summary of the expected performance benefits, expressed in terms of safety, capacity, operational efficiency, cost efficiency, environment, and security. Going through the engineering view, we find a detailed description of each SLOA, including information on the stakeholders involved, which can be different case by case, and references to supporting material, such as applicable EU regulations, relevant EUROCONTROL guidelines, specification, etc.
So we have now described in details the planning part of the ATM Master Plan Level 3, and we now move on to the individual reporting mechanisms, and this is the LSSIP process. The LSSIP process and LSSIP documents delivered by the states provide a reality check on the Master Plan Level 3 plan. The level of implementation is reported there by all national stakeholders, civil and military. So we include here the NSAs, ANSPs, airports, airspace users, and military. And the level of implementation reported is reported by the stakeholders that committed to the process, and at the end they provide their signature under the document. The LSSIP process develops for each ICAC state, MUAC and Israel, and possibly in the future also Morocco, one printed document with high-level information on the state where the local implementation plan and the progress report on the mature elements of the ATM Master Plan, as identified in the implementation objectives, is included. It is a yearly document with situation at the end of the calendar year for which it is published. And the process itself is now extended to the whole ICAO European region, where the ICAC and Israel states are covered by the LSSIP mechanism directly, and there is no double reporting, and the remaining 10 states use a specific questionnaire based on LSSIP process. The LSSIP process has been established 25 years ago, and it is based on the cooperation between EUROCONTROL and the states. From the state point of view, there is a national LSSIP focal point, a person that is responsible for ensuring the correct and consistent LSSIP data, and by respecting the agreed time scheduled. The LSIP focal point is nominated by the state, normally from the NSA or ANSP. And the LSIP focal point is responsible also for the internal coordination of all national stakeholders during the production of the LSIP document for the state which he or she represents. The national stakeholders use a number of tools, including the online database and SharePoint, which will be presented in the next slide, so we do not go into the details at this moment. And from EUROCONTROL point of view, we have the LSIP contact person, CP, that supports the Master Plan Level 3 and LSIP implementation cycle by mediating between EUROCONTROL agency and the national stakeholders to maintain the timely, precise information and format for the production of the LSIP document. The contact person provides necessary support and guidance to his and or her states for the production of the LSIP, but the final responsible for the providing consistent and complete LSIP information is the national focal point. The process itself is supported by specific guidance material and templates that facilitate the work of all of the involved stakeholders. The final result is the national document, which is signed by all concerned parties that represent, and the document represents the level of implementation of the objectives at the end of the reporting year. The LSIP document is fully harmonized among all the stakeholders. It is divided into six chapters, of which the first 5 chapters are representing the current ATM environment within the state, and the final, chapter 6, shows the details of the implementation of the objectives. Chapter 1 is an introductory chapter which describes the institutional ATM arrangements within the state. Chapter 2 shows a comprehensive view on the air traffic capacity and ATFM delays per each ACC in the state. In Chapter C, we see the link between the ATM Master Plan Progress Report, which will be described later on in our presentation, through the conclusions of the report and the actions that the state has to implement to fulfill them. Chapter 4 shows the major ATM implementation projects at national, FAB, and regional level. Chapter 5 is dealing with other cooperation activities, like, for example, the FAB initiatives. And finally, the Chapter 6 is fully devoted to the implementation objectives and their analysis at national level. All LSIP documents are available on our EUROCONTROL website. You can have direct access to the Level 1 document, which is the implementation overview, and it is publicly available, and you can print it, and it's also printed in a printed format. And this document only covers a certain number of details, but all of the elements that are reported by the state in the LSIP database are available in the non-printed part of this document, which is called Level 2, the detailed implementation status, and the access to it is more restricted. In order to get access to it, you have to contact the state's focal point, and the name of the focal point and the contact person from EUROCONTROL you also have available on our website.
An important notion enabling to track progress in a uniform way is the notion of progress. This applies at the level of objectives and SLOAs, and it enables to see for each item the progress or sometimes the lack of progress. The definition of each of these 6 progresses is defined in a consistent way, allowing it to be measured. These definitions have been refined over time and are still being adapted. For example, in the past, there was the notion of partly completed, but it was used a number of times in an inconsistent way by stakeholders. Note also that for this edition, we have decided to change the type of colors used for each progress, but to ensure consistency for this webinar, we still use the color schemes as used in the most recent LSIP documents. We will now look at each of these progresses in detail on the next slides. Let's suppose now we have a certain objective with a date in the future. We start the first year of monitoring. The easy case, rather exceptional in the first year of reporting, is that the state, so all national stakeholders, consider the objective as already completed. So this means it is in operational use. All checkpoints have been answered yes, and the computed percentage is 100%. The checkpoints that I mentioned here are intermediate questions at the stakeholder lines of action level that further detail what is to be done. What we mean by computed percentage will be explained later with a real example. And so, if the objective is considered complete, the stakeholders do not need to report further over the years unless the situation has changed in the meantime. Another example of progress is not applicable. For example, if the state is outside the applicability area and it will not implement the objective, or if alternative solutions are being implemented. Now, important though that the progress is not the only information reported. We always ask the stakeholders to properly justify, explain their decision. And in case of doubt, we enter in a dialogue mode between the agency's contact person and the state focal point. Now, what if, and especially for the first year of reporting, one has not yet made up its mind? There could not yet be a final decision to implement, or there could not yet be a budget. In this case, the progress of no plan will have to be used. But of course, then the next year the stakeholder will reconsider and may decide to plan for implementation. For that, we will have the other progresses. So what if the stakeholders have already the first year an entry in their business plan to eventually implement this objective, but without any effort yet started? Well, if the foreseen implementation date is not later than the FOC, then we call it planned, which is an obvious explanation. However, if already some actions have started, then we call it ongoing. So the plan is 0% percentage, but ongoing means that there is a computer percentage above 100%, above 0%, but of course less than 100%. So the difference between planned and ongoing is simply that when it's ongoing, some actions have started already. Now let's go through a real scenario of reporting from year 1 to year X. This one is planned the first year, and it remains planned over the next years. Then at a certain moment in time, the implementation activities are starting, the percentage is more than 0%, and progress is called to be ongoing. And then when everything is implemented, the objective is completed. This is a very easy and straightforward case. And note, of course, that the planned dates of implementation may, of course, change throughout years. In some rare cases, it will be earlier, but mostly activities get postponed. Now we go to a more realistic scenario of reporting. As we said, it is put as planned the first year. It remains planned, then it becomes ongoing. And then, as said, the implementation date is shifting. And a certain moment, when the implementation date is sadly beyond the FOC, we will call the objective late. It is not always like that, but sometimes it happens like that, and of course eventually it will become completed. Now let's show a realistic case of reporting detailing how percentages are computed and what checkpoints are being used. Note these checkpoints are not shown in the master plan, but they are added in the LSSIP database, we'll explain later, to make the reporting easier and more uniform. So we start always at the SLOA level. In this case, you see no checkpoint has been completed. There's a plan for implementation by end of 2020. So we put it, or it is put as planned, because the foreseen timing is equal to the Master Plan Level 3 plan date for this SLOA. For this next SLOA, same like above. And then for the third SLOA, you see the state said, or the stakeholder said, 2 checkpoints completed, the first at 10%, the second at 30%. So this SLOA's completion rate, you see, is 40% and it is ongoing. So now we look for this specific stakeholder. We put the 3 SLOAs together, 2 at 0%, 1 at 40%. So simple mathematics gives us a value of 30% completion rate for the stakeholder. It's calculate automatically. Now the same procedure for the other stakeholder, which has only one SLOA to complete. And then we look at the objective level. There are 4 SLOAs in this example, 3 at 10%, 1 at 40%. So we are at a 10% completion level for this objective. So this was a first impression on the setup of the LSIP. Now we go to the Master Plan Level 3 progress report.
So now we can move to the Master Plan Level 3 progress report. Master Plan Level 3 progress report provides an holistic view of the implementation of commonly agreed actions to be taken by ICAC states in the context of the implementation of CESAR. The progress report is produced annually, developed in close cooperation with the CESAR joint undertaking and more than 30 CESAR industrial partners. The layout and structure of the document are driven by CESAR key features to better reflect the alignment between all 3 master plan levels. The progress report is mainly composed by the executive summary, introducing overall information on CESAR implementation, including the main issues occurring in this process, as well as important conclusions also included in the Chapter 3 of the LSIP document. This strategic view, addressed to the middle management, indicates the stakeholders involved and describes the major ATM changes and implementation success stories, as well as the expected evolution over the next years. Finally, the deployment view, addressed to experts, is key feature driven and includes further statistics and progress information. Here is an example of deployment view of the objective ATC 17, whose estimated achievement date is beyond the FOC date, as can be seen from the progress status, which is planned delay. The progress status for each implementation objective is described in the terms described in the table on the right side of the slide. The graph shows the past, if applicable, and future evolution of the implementation objective completion rate. Finally, the main development section summarizes the main developments in the objective implementation, based on the reported LSIP information and expert judgment analysis.
And now another deliverable that fully relies on the inputs from the ATM Master Plan and the LSIP process, and this is the ICAO ASBO Implementation Monitoring Report. This report is developed by EUROCONTROL in cooperation with ICAO European Office in Paris and uses the LSIP mechanism to analyze the level of the implementation of ASBOs at ICAO European level. The ICAC and Israel states do not have to report anything in addition for the ASBO modules, as they are linked to the ATM Master Plan Level 3 implementation objectives, and the information is automatically extracted for them. So there is no double reporting. For the non-ICAC states, they are required to fill in a specific questionnaire which is based on the current LSIP process, and the reporting burden is limited to a minimum for them, and specific guidance is provided by EUROCONTROL. The 2017 edition report on the ASBO implementation in ICAO European region covers 42 states, which are here marked in the green boxes, and plus 3 states marked here in yellow, which are Monaco, San Marino, and Andorra. And these 3 specific states, they report through another state implementation progress reports. And these states, the green and the yellow ones, are part of the direct LSIP mechanism. In addition, we have 10 states marked here in red that are in the ICAO European region, but they have to report through a dedicated questionnaire, which is part of the regular state reports for the ATM Group East and the ATM Group East meetings. The ICAO report is presented on an annual basis to the European Air Navigation Planning Group for the endorsement, and then it is submitted for inclusion into the ICAO Global Air Navigation Report so that the regional developments and deployment actions can be coordinated across the regions and global interoperability can be ensured at the highest level. In the report, you will find the planning view, and here we show one of the examples. It is the aggregation of the information for all of the states regarding the planned date of implementation for specific ASBU module. In this example, this is the B0 FRTO, the improved operations through enhanced en route trajectories. You can see there who has already completed the module in the dark green color and what are the plans for the remaining states for the upcoming years in the implementation, starting from 2018 up to 2021 and after. Another presentation of the results is the implementation view that shows the status of implementation for the module and the mapped objective for this specific module. Here, the presentation concerns the ACAS improvements, and the mapped objective is ATC 16, the implementation of ACAS compliant with TCAS change 7.1. And in this presentation, we use the statuses from the implementation of the LSSIP mechanism. So you see here the status that Dani presented: completed, ongoing, planned, late, no plan, and not applicable. As part of the conclusions and recommendations, the information presented in the planning view and the implementation progress are summarized by two tables that give an overall and straightforward understanding of the ASBU implementation status. The first table, which we show here, is called the ASBU Block 0 Implementation Dashboard, and it presents the number of the states that have achieved implementation and gives the overall rate of completion status at the end of 2017. It can be used to compare in a simple way the progress achieved in different modules, and the 2017 results that you see here show that the biggest number of completion has been reached for ACAS and FICE modules, and then we can also compare the percentage with the percentage of implementation only for the applicable states. So this is the blue line here where you see the real implementation percentage. Another view that we present is the ASBU Block 0 implementation outlook for 2020, and this presents the completion status as it is foreseen to be achieved by the end of 2020 for all of the states, in accordance with the planning dates that are reported in the 2017 report. And here it shows which ASBU modules will be near or full completion in the 2020. But you can also see which modules still will need further implementation from the states.
Now, after having spoken extensively about all the deliverables, let's explain you in short the process of how we work together with stakeholders to ensure the timely delivery of all items. We start with an overall timeline for all the deliverables, then we focus on the LSSIP, as this is most important for you. We will speak about the various supporting documents. We then focus on the specific timeline for the LSSIP, and we will finish with the notion of the LSSIP expert group. First, a look at the overall timeline, which is an annual timeline. Remember, we start with a plan, then we go to local reporting, and then monitoring at European level through the Master Plan Level 3 Progress Report and the ASBU Implementation Monitoring Report. We will show you here the most recent cycle that is now, in October 2018, about to be completed. The Master Plan Level 3 Plan 2017 was finalized in July 2017, but the work on it started already late 2016. This work was done with a specific group of stakeholders within the so-called PG20 constellation, which is the project for the maintenance of the master plan. Now, to ensure a full commitment to the new and the significantly changed objectives, we ran, as every year, a consultation through the EUROCONTROL Provisional Council, which gave us a green light by end of August 2017. The next deliverables are the LSIP documents. Within the PRM unit, we started the preparation for this 2017 LSIP cycle already in June, but the real work of the stakeholders started last year with the so-called kick-off event on the 14th and the 15th of October. The LSIP database, which is the tool to capture information, was frozen on the 15th of February of 2018, but then the stakeholders continued to finalize the entire document, so the other chapters, and to get their signature internal in the state. And for some states that was faster than for others. Some got the final signatory already as early as March, and the last ones got their internal national signature process finalized only during this summer. Then the third deliverable is the progress report, level 3 progress report. This report analyzes the information in the LSIP documents, and so the work could start mid of February once the database was frozen. We finalized the progress report early July, got it approved by the SGU, and since August it's available for all stakeholders to consult. And then the final deliverable, the ASBU implementation monitoring report. This one reuses information from the Master Plan Level 3 progress report, but it also takes information from the specific LSIP-based questionnaires sent to the non-ECAC states. As typically these ones are sent out later than the LSIP documents, we can only start to work on this document as of August. And then this document is typically approved at the November session of the ENPG. So we see that it's an annual cycle, but it's stretched to some 2 years, which means that for the PRM unit we are always busy on various deliverables on the same time. Now let's have a look to the supporting documents which we update every year. We first have the LSIP roles and responsibilities. They describe in detail the roles and responsibilities of the states, the experts, the LSIP focal points, and the agency contact persons. It is foreseen to support the organization of the national LSIP process in case of new states or in case of a certain stakeholder having concerns. The next one is about the production of the document. A straightforward document putting the who, does what, and when. The third explains the establishment of the progress for objectives at all levels, so from the checkpoint to the SLOA stakeholder to state, as we showed to you in a previous example. Number 4 is an extensive introduction to the LSIP database and all its functionalities. Number 5 is quite a stable one. It's an introduction to using the SharePoint for LSIP. And then we have a document that for us is not really formally part of the guidance package. It's the template. This one is the basis for all initial draft documents. So every year we assess in spring the table of contents and the overall contents of the document, and where felt needed, items are updated, are added, deleted, more clarified. And now let's look to the specific LSIP timeline. And here the case is for 2018, so the cycle starting as of now. As previous years, the PRM unit started preparation well in advance, but as always, the real work of the stakeholders starts on the annual event, which is this year on the 4th of October. At the event, we will show to the audience the changes to the process through the updated guidance package and templates. Also, so the LSIP database contents is then ready for use by the focal points in the states, being preloaded with information of last year, and of course, with in addition, the new objectives for this plan, for which of course no local information is yet available. Now, the template which I spoke of about is the basis for the initial draft. Well, here in PRM, for the rest of the month, we will make 43 initial draft documents. We will copy the information of last year into the new template. We'll add some comments or similar, so that's to show that we assume something may need to be changed. And then we hand this, and all the rest is handed over to the focal points and the experts. So in a typically interactive process between the focal points, the experts in the state, and the contact person, the content of the document and the database is updated and finalized. We have a specific, as we call, an in-cycle review, enabling us here in the agency to double-check with objective owners other than the agency and to ask some last comments. And specific for this year, you see a certain annex is needed to be finalized by the end of January at the very latest, and this will be explained at the annual event by the SGU. And then typically mid of February, this year, the 12th of February, the database is frozen. So indeed the information which we collect is valid of the end of the year, and so by freezing it mid of February, there's an additional 6 weeks for all stakeholders to gather information, to gather the latest information and finalize progress of all objectives. It is only then that we start to work on the Level 3 progress report. And there then remains the rest of the document to be finalized, so typically a few weeks are kept to come to a working level agreed version between contact person and focal point, and then typically a month is left to ensure signature at appropriate level and get a final public document. Now again, the last steps are not always so straightforward. We know that the last bits sometimes take many months to be completed. The last slide is about the LSSIP expert group. This is a group of some 15 national experts from the 4 categories of national stakeholders. And with them we hold regular WebEx meetings to discuss all aspects of the process. So the guidance documents, the methodology, the content, ways of working, anything. And this group is our sounding board. And here you see the logos of all the applicable organizations, persons being part now of the expert group.
In this section, we introduce the web tools supporting our monitoring and reporting process. In particular, we are going to describe the LSSIP database, enabling local stakeholders to manage implementation progress information about objectives and projects, as well as generate various reports. The PRM website, containing information on our different planning, reporting, and monitoring activities, links to relevant documentation and information, as well as our contact details. The LSSIP SharePoint environment, providing a common platform for collaboration, document management, information sharing between contact person and focal point. And finally, the European ATM portal, the home of the European ATM Master Plan, where the 3 levels of the master plan are shown and connected to each other. The LSSIP database is a restricted web application used by more than 300 authorized users, allowing states and stakeholders to provide detailed progress information on each implementation objective, including assessments against objectives description, finalization criteria, and overall European planning information. Data access is restricted at country level, except for FABS members who may share progress information among partners. Information related to master plan implementation objectives, additional AK objectives, and local projects are organized in tabs. The application provides also warnings in case of any missing mandatory information and inconsistencies. The coordination between contact person and focal point is also supported by change request notifications. Finally, the LSSIP database allows the user to export data and generate reports for several reporting purposes. The LSSIP database provides also the possibility to manage information regarding national implementation projects to be included in the Chapter 4 of the LSSIP document. Here is the home page of the PRM website, accessible from EUROCONTROL public website, Pan-European Single Sky section. Along with our mission and brief description of the ATM planning, reporting, and monitoring activities carried out by the PRM unit, the website provides links to our main deliverables, such as the LSSIP documents, Master Plan Level 3 plan and report, and ICAO-ASBO monitoring report. In addition, on a side menu, we propose also a number of links to relevant sources of information, such as the eATM portal, guidance material, events, and PRM contact details. The LSIP SharePoint site is a collaboration tool for the LSIP contact person and stakeholders, representing a secure space on the Internet to share, organize, collaborate and manage the LSIP process. Each state has exclusive access to a dedicated mini-site containing documents related to its own national environment, as well as external links to other relevant resources. SharePoint is also particularly important for contact person and national stakeholders for accessing the LSIP Level 2 document.
Another very useful tool for the daily LSIP work is the European ATM portal, to which all of you can get access. There are in fact two versions of the portal available: the public portal, where no login is necessary but only approved data is displayed there, and the working portal, where you have to log in through one Sky Teams account and more updated and working data is available. The portal is designed to cover all necessary information concerning the ATM implementation and research and development. There is a specific deployment view in the portal that shows the progress made from R&D to implementation and monitoring at European level. It shows the different elements that influence the creation of implementation objectives at planning level and the yearly cycle of European planning, local implementation and reporting, and European monitoring that underpins the Master Plan Level 3. The implementation objectives planning part presents a list of all active implementation objectives that includes also the detailed description of the objective, the stakeholder lines of action, and all the elements that are linked to this objective. In fact, this is the engineering view of the ATM Master Plan Level 3 plan that was presented to you before. So here you see a list of the objectives that are available, their titles, the dates of implementation, the status, and the related elements that are linked to them. When you click on a specific objective, you have all the details of this objective with the links, SLOAs, and the supporting material as it was already presented before. Another view is the implementation objectives monitoring part, and this section provides a view of the implementation progress of the objectives through specific progress reports, maps, and statistics. It also provides an implementation progress view at state level and aggregated view at FAP level. So here you again go into the specific list of the objectives, where you can see the implementation progress, the finalization date, and the estimated achievement as reported by the states. And from that you can go into the map tool, which shows the same results as we showed you before, but on the map in the version of the map.
So here we are at the end of this webinar on Master Plan Level 3 and LSIP. We've guided you through the requirements, the deliverables, the process, and the tools. In the summary, well, it's not rocket science, but it's cost efficient. It's about working together. The process is adapting to the environment. It's pragmatic, and it's in use since some 25 years. Now, what if you need more information? As said, this briefing with the oral notes is to be available at the PRM website as of the 8th of October, together with separately a list of frequently asked questions. Of course, those listening in now on the 2nd of October will also be attending the 4th of October event, after which we will have separate bilateral meetings. Some on the 4th of October in the evening, some on the 5th of October, some during the next weeks. That will be the moment that the contact person will speak with the focal point, the experts, the newcomers, how to run this reporting exercise over the next months. We also advise you to consult the portal and through your focal point to ask access to the LSIP database. This is the last slide, showing also a number of useful links to the portal, to who is who in the PRM team. You see the link here to the PRM team, and also to the overall website of the PRM team, which, as you see, was previously called the Pan-European Planning and Reporting Team, which only recently changed its name to PRM. That's why the URL is still linked to Pepper. Thank you for your attention.